So this is not the Empowerment Hour podcast. This is a sub episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast. We have a set. When we have that set completed, we're going to bring you back and do a proper segment with you, because the work that you're doing is amazing. You're amazing. And the whole point of that podcast is to highlight young people who are doing work in the community, who have something to say about living the values of empowerment. But it is the week before Christmas, and I felt a need to communicate with our staff and any other, I have a teacher from my high school who's reaching out on Instagram, and I think there are a lot of other teachers and people who work with youth who feel like there is a crisis going on, a mental health crisis, that lots of young people out there right now, this year in particular, are suffering. And so I wanted to give a tool. I want to talk about that tool in a little bit, but I quickly want to talk about who you are, how you got to this seat, and a little bit about what you're doing now. So how did you learn about Youth Era?
So I learned about Youth Era through just Instagram pretty much. They were on my Explore page actually. Then I read through your stuff and I got on your website and contacted one of your workers, and then we talked and talked and talked, we met, and then I ended up doing the peer support training. So a whole week, 40 hours of just learning about how to support everyone, or support children, or youth and everything.
Sure.
So after that, before I did that training, I lost 2 friends to suicide, and I started to kind of self-doubt myself and have a lot of depression, suicidal thoughts and actions. So after that, I decided to make a team for a Out of Darkness walk. Fundraise for that, kind of had a big hit, and then decided to create an organization here in Eugene to kind of work with suicide awareness and prevention and try to erase the stigma around suicide.
So you had those losses in your life, and you decided you were going to make that a moment where no more, I'm going to be part of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Your own organization. How old are you?
17.
That's amazing. And it's somber as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're hearing about this crisis that's going on. You're in school now. What do you think that's true? Do you think this year is tougher for some reason? Do you think that a lot of young people are kind of suffering?
Yeah, definitely in high schools, you can just tell that the kind of at my school especially, my school's always been this really friendly, open place that everyone's kind of just happy. We all are together, never really any problems. And this year there's been a big problem with just people not showing up to class, and it's not because they want to skip, it's because of they're just sad and struggling that they can't do that. And there's just not this much of openness and love that was always kind of there before, and I know that other high schools are definitely dealing with that as well.
So before we started recording, I gave you a link to check this thing out. This is a tool that anyone who works with young people, anyone who does any kind of work can do. What's this tool called?
Ho'oponopono.
It's Hawaiian, and the entire idea behind it is that it is a process that does what?
The process is kind of to cleanse yourself and what your kind of life and the people that you are trying to help. It's cleansing them at the same time as you doing it to yourself.
And so how does it go? What is the process? What do you say?
So you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you.
So, and the idea behind it was created by a clinician, and in Hawaii, and there were a bunch of people who were in this psych hospital, and they were actually able to leave if they wanted to, or if they could qualify for that they were okay, mentally stable, that they weren't going to hurt themselves or someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So they had done whatever time that they had to do, but they weren't meeting the requirements to exit the hospital. And so he did this process with them. Mm-hmm. And within a year, everyone on his list that he did this process with was freed. So for me, there's a fine line between giving too much power to, some people would call this a mantra, but for me, I would like to think of this as a tool to get us in state for when we're about to work with youth. Mm-hmm. When we're thinking about like a teacher's getting ready for their day, or at a drop-in center, a peer support specialist is getting ready for their day. You know, we all have struggles that we're dealing with, and a lot of people who work with youth might have some insight about that struggle. And maybe doing this mantra before, if the only thing it does is gets you in state so that you can be more present, that would be enough, right?
Yeah.
That word love, that's a dangerous word to use, like in the school setting, right? Yeah. Do you hear teachers and officials use that word often?
You'll hear it sometimes, but usually it's more of like a certain teacher close relationship type of thing. I mean, there's a couple of teachers at my school that are like the most like generous people ever, and they'll like say from the get-go, like, I love you and I care about you and all these things. But like most teachers, you kind of have to have that really like close relationship to hear kind of that word, those words.
Yeah. And you know, I think as a society, we're getting to a place where we understand how much that's lacking. Mm-hmm. You know, the biggest thing that I was surprised to learn about teachers who are new to the field is they're shocked by how much isolation so many young people face. There's an assumption that because social media exists, everyone's connected all the time. Yeah. The truth is there are a lot of students who are isolated, right?
Yeah.
What do you think we can do? So this mantra is something that we can do. Mm-hmm. What do you think folks who are working with young people this week can do to alleviate some of that suffering that's happening?
I mean, just like being really open with them, and like like the simple thing of just saying like I love you and I care about you and like I want the best for you. Like if I heard that when I was struggling, like that would have been just beyond the thing that happened. And I mean, I had my like depression and suicidal actions were like happening around this time as well. Mm-hmm. When I dealt with them. So like just kind of like feeling that you're cared about and knowing that you're just kind of settled, like you're who you are, like that's kind of what I would love to hear. Yeah. And I know that a lot of youth would probably like to hear that as well.
Could be the difference between being able to make it another day or not. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Could be a difference between getting over a trauma or being stuck in it for a long time. So we're gonna link the YouTube video that you saw. We're gonna link how to do this. People who are brave, and at certain parts in my work with young people, I might not have been brave because you have to be fully aware of all of the concepts behind going this deep. So if you're really brave and you're really good at what you do in working with youth, you might go through this YouTube video with them and teach them, because this is something that you can actually do for people who have passed. You can do this on behalf of people. You can thinking about people who've hurt you. You know, a lot of us, including me, have suffered from domestic violence as children. And the idea with this mantra is that you could actually do it from the perspective of you're forgiving that person. And how powerful is that to be able to take that from being the victim to going into this place and being like, you know what? Not only do I forgive you, but I'm asking you to forgive me. And the act of doing that, because the mantra isn't about them, it's about you. That asking for forgiveness, even if you're alone in a room, from that person moves something inside of you. Now, some folks might say that it has a bigger effect that goes outward, but for us and practically, it's about what can we do to get in state? How can we get teachers and peer support specialists to be better prepared to work with these youth during this really difficult time of the year? So will you come back and be on the official set?
Sure.
Not with the LED lights back. You're doing amazing work, and thank you for helping me highlight this tool. And I hope that you try and use it, even if you feel a little weird about it. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Try it. It's powerful. And if nothing else, think about getting into state before you're working with young people this week. Thanks. And thank you for coming on.
Of course.